loudly or too quietly give me a passing for the fact of my mission. But I am Brother Palmer. There's a lot of new faces because this isn't technically my ward. It used to be. I'm in the, Louisville? Yeah, okay. I'm in the Louisville ward. I was gone during the Great Schism, so I don't quite know how this works. But yes, I just recently returned from my mission from the Kaeden mission specifically. It was a wonderful experience. I'm so incredibly grateful for all of the people that I met and for all of the experiences that I received. I started out in Finland in December in a very small town called Jakobstad. That's the Swedish form. But if you want the Finnish form, it's Peacehaven. And that was the time. It was the smallest area open to missionaries at that time. And I arrived there December 8th during one of the darkest and coldest winters of my entire life. And we got probably max of about 3 hours of sunlight a day. And it typically wasn't sunlight, it was typically just slightly light clouds. And it wasn't until 3 weeks into my mission that I actually saw the sun for the first time. And let me tell you, that is a magical experience. And it is a bit of an object lesson as well with the Son of God. You really don't understand just how much you love it until it's been missing from your life. And another fun object lesson with the weather in Finland, the coldest days were the ones with no clouds, where you could actually see the sun. And yeah, we would peak about a few inches above the horizon and then dip back down, and you're again plunged into darkness. But that is also a similitude to our closeness with Christ and the Father. And it's that even when He is the most visible and the most apparent in our lives, sometimes that's when adversity is the strongest. Because, man, -40 sucks. It is awful. But with the sun staring you in the face, you can get through it. And a lot of times that's how the mission was. It was dark, spiritually and physically. Because Finland is a very secular country. They do have a national religion, and most people do ascertain to that religion. But as we were kind of saying in the mission field, they were more Easter Christmas Christians. They would go for the special holidays, but it wasn't truly embedded in their hearts. And that's okay. They were wonderful, lovely people. But they are very closed off. The cold and the darkness really does get to you. It doesn't matter how many vitamin D pills you take. It doesn't matter. They have these little happy lights that are supposed to simulate the sun, yet they don't work. But there was a big difference that I personally saw between those of the Finnish community, of those who had the gospel in their lives, and those who didn't. Because those who did not have the gospel in their lives, you could see that their hope was sometimes non-existent. I saw some of the worst conditions I've seen people in emotionally, because they had no idea who they were, or where they came from, or where they were going. But those that did know, through the gospel of Jesus Christ, it was a night and day difference. It was beautiful. And those are some of the most kind and loving and generous people I've ever met. And one of the biggest key things that I learned on my mission was the importance of the Book of Mormon, of all things. I know, just another person on the stage talking about the Book of Mormon. But I could not have told you why we had the Book of Mormon before I left on my mission. Growing up in the church, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You have this truth, and it's beautiful, and it helps shape your life, but you don't understand why. You've never lived your life without it. And I could not tell you what the difference was. so that you don't know what to do with it. Because you do get the opposite effect. During the summer solstice, you get no darkness whatsoever. You're walking outside, it's 9 p.m., missionary's curfew, and you have no idea whether it's 10 a.m. or 3 p.m. or 11 p.m. It's all the same. It is incredibly bright. And that's what some of those people were like. And it's just the beauty of the gospel and the truth that the Book of Mormon brought to their lives. It was amazing. And for me, one of the biggest things was learning why we had the Book of Mormon specifically. Yes, it teaches wonderful truth, and it helps us grow closer to Christ, but the purpose was to reestablish the pattern that God had always had. And it is what distinguished God's people from those who had drifted. And that is the focus on prophets. And that, to me, was the most significant lesson I've learned in my mission, is that we have the prophets, and why that matters. The Book of Mormon testifies that Joseph Smith was a true prophet of God. That is the essential knowledge that we have to come to if we want to survive spiritually. Because trust me, in Finland sometimes it is fight for your life spiritually every single day. But to know in my heart that the Book of Mormon is true, and therefore validating the truth that Joseph Smith was a true prophet of God, and that God the Father and Jesus Christ did appear to him in the sacred grove that fateful morning, is the greatest truth that we could ever know. Now, there were a lot of people that I met in Finland that, were curious. They had heard many things about the Book of Mormon and they wanted to give it a shot. But they weren't necessarily interested in what it could do for them. They kind of had it as a challenge. Because they had heard, if you read the Book of Mormon, you will become converted. Because that is, thankfully, the story of many, many people. They read the Book of Mormon and they feel the Spirit. And they live out its principles and they see how it affects their lives and how it makes them better people. And they know it's true. And through that, they can know Joseph Smith was a prophet. But there are some that took that as a challenge and said, I'm going to read this whole thing and watch this. I'm not going to believe it. And that's true. You're going to get exactly what you want. There's a fantastic quote from a devotional that I heard that kind of changed my whole perspective on this. And I'm going to pull it up so I don't butcher the quote. But it's by a man by the name of Dan Fuller in one of his devotionals called The Book of Mormon is True. And this simple truth kind of rocked my world a bit concerning my testimony of the Book of Mormon. And it says, quote, "You have to build your faith. God does not answer hypothetical questions. If you are curious about the Book of Mormon, God will not answer your question because curiosity is not enough. I'm curious, but don't ask me to change my life. If I tell you it's true, what are you going to do? Well, I don't know. I'm curious. By answering your question, God would then condemn you. You have knowledge that you are not prepared to use, and He will not answer questions with people who are not ready for that answer. Real intent means, tell me it's true, and I will change my life. I will give away all of my kingdom to know you. You have got to be prepared to do your part if you want the promise to have effect in your life." Close quote. And there's a very similar quote by Vanilla Maxwell that I also really love. It says, quote, "Scanning while doubting is different than searching with real intent. You will never know. It is the flip side of Moroni's methodology and produces flippant conclusions to Moroni's process of verification that surely is followed by many readers and reviewers of this book." And I saw both ends in Finland. saw preachers that had taken upon themselves as a personal challenge to read the Book of Mormon and to reject it. And that's exactly what they did. And it was devastating. Because you could see all the beautiful truth they were missing out on. They were so close. But then on the other side, with my own eyesight, probably one of the closest people I grew with in Finland was a man that I had the honor and privilege of baptizing. But we were in a lesson with him one day, with another convert to the church, who had maybe joined about 2 decades prior. And we had asked him, had you read and prayed to know the Book of Mormon is true? Have you lived its principles? Have you used it in your life in a way that it can change your life? And he said, not yet. So we asked why. And he said because he was scared. And that's when that amazing convert spoke up and said, I was the same way. It is scary for people to read this book and to know in their hearts that it's true, but they just want to push it off just a little bit. Because to know that it's true changes your whole life. There's not a single part of your life that does not affect. It is a massive change, and it requires a lot of commitment. But he decided to do it. He prayed, and he learned for himself that the Book of Mormon was true. And I have never seen the windows of heaven open up more for someone. His life is completely different. And I'm incredibly close with him now. I had the privilege of giving him the Melchizedek priesthood a year after I baptized him. And now he is sealed to his wonderful wife. And just a year before that, he didn't even know if God existed. But it was amazing. And those experiences, I would never trade for anything. Because yes, it was hard. Yes, I really missed a lot of things. Surprisingly enough, the burlap on the bottom half of the walls in America, in the American churches, they don't have those in Finland. But there's something therapeutic about it. I missed a lot of things, but I would never trade that experience for anything. And that is my invitation to all of you. Don't do what I did when I was a young teenager, which is that scaling all down. I didn't want it to be true. I was tired of the expectations and the pressure and all the responsibilities that came with being a member of this church. But now that I've embraced it, I've never felt more free. And I've never felt more loved. And I'm so incredibly grateful. Please, dissect what you believe. Know why you believe it. And I love each and every one of you.